Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and we'll get some insight into admissions and financial aid today. My guest today is Dr. Dean Skarlis. He is the president and owner of College Advisors of New York, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
So usually, Dr. Dean, I start my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
Well, I grew up in Pittsburgh, so I went to Allegheny College, which is a couple hours north, and good liberal arts school, had a great experience. I have a master's from Duquesne University, and then I have a doctoral degree in education from Pitt, University of Pittsburgh.
Wow, fantastic. So let me just go back in time before we get into what you're doing today. In high school, when did you start thinking about going to college? Was it freshman year of high school, senior year? When did it all begin for you?
I'd say it was before that. I had two older sisters who both went on to college, and that was sort of an expectation in our family. I didn't even think about not going. And they chose small liberal arts colleges as well. So I thought that was the path to go, and that's what I did. So I would say pretty early on, but probably in middle school.
All right, good. So now you're at Allegheny, and what did you think of the school when you got there?
I loved it. I applied early decision. Not as many kids back then did that. So this is 1985, 86 school year. And so I only applied to two colleges, Bucknell and Allegheny. And I loved it from the beginning, had a great experience. I liked the small environment and sought that out. And thankfully I was correct about that. And just had a really good, rich educational experience there.
So now, how does one go from graduating all these schools and becoming the doctor in that to becoming the president and owner of College Advisors of New York?
So I guess in college as an undergraduate, I was really involved. I was a resident advisor and a resident director, and I was a psychology major. So I just enjoyed the collegiate environment. So my original intent was to go and work at a university, which I did. I worked at Duquesne, which is in Pittsburgh, great place. And I did that for 9 years. And then I think I just got bored being on a campus. And so I took a job with ACT, which brought me to upstate New York, ACT being one of the two testing companies like the SAT.
Yeah.
So my job was to travel to various colleges and some high schools, but mostly collegiate environments. And we had lots of programs and services beyond the ACT geared toward helping enrollment management and admissions people do their jobs. So I would visit with deans of admissions and did a lot of travel. And that's kind of how I learned the enrollment management field from the admissions folks. Then I also did a little bit of work with another school in Ohio and was working in enrollment management there. But as I was traveling, people started asking me, oh, you must know some good colleges for my daughter and that kind of thing. So I started doing it out of my home as a part-time thing. And then about maybe 17 years ago or so, I jumped full-time, and we have an office now. And so that's kind of how I fell into it. And I really just love that field, enrollment management. And I learned it from the other side, and then I figured I would use my knowledge to help families.
So now, what exactly does the College of Advisors of New York actually do?
We help high school students and their parents through the complicated admissions process. Our goal is to help them find colleges that are a good fit socially, academically, and financially. So we do everything from career counseling for the student to help them find a direction and a path. and we give them a customized list of schools. I've visited about 450 colleges now over the last, 15 years or so. So I can tell students the difference between Lafayette and Lehigh, even though they're similar institutions. Um, and then we help students with their essays, their applications. A lot of it is keeping them on track because it's a very time, deadline oriented process.
Mhm.
The other thing we do is we help parents early in the process understand their affordability. And I've found that to be super important.
Sure.
Um, and so we help them with the financial end of things, whether they qualified for financial aid or not. We help them reduce the cost as best as we can, because as you know, it's gotten prohibitively expensive at some of these private colleges. So it's really a full, year and a half to 2 year process, depending on when they find us. And the goal is to help the student get admitted and get find the school that's the best fit for them.
So now, do you start as early as junior year with them, sophomore year? When does it all begin?
Sophomore or junior year is really the best time.
Okay. And then, so what did they actually are doing with you? Are they building something with you? Do you fill out the Common App with them? How does it all work?
Um, so we have a pretty structured process. First, we start with career and major counseling. Then we give them some assessments and we build their college list. We organize schools that are reaches and target schools and likely. We help them understand how to research those schools, what to do on the visits, how to schedule the visits. Then we want them out seeing places. And then we get their feedback, and then we look at their test scores might have changed and their grades. So we adjust the list accordingly. Um, and then in the spring, we start them on their essays and their applications. We don't do the Common App for them, but we walk them through it. We review all of their applications before they submit them. We advise on if they should do early action, early decision. The whole test optional thing is a big deal now. And so we advise them on which schools to send their test scores to, and really everything that goes with the process.
And financially, what exactly are you doing financially with them? Do you go through the financial aid application with them?
Yes, so I started calling it an affordability review. I do that early with mom and dad, and I have some software, so I calculate what's called their student aid index. It used to be called expected family contribution, but that terminology has changed. So that will tell us, right then and there whether they're going to qualify for aid, and if so, how much. Sometimes if they do qualify for aid, we can help them get more with some simple strategies. If they don't qualify for aid, which probably the majority of my clients don't, then we're looking at, the real question I want to know. It used to be the $64,000 question. Now it's the $90,000 question. A popular school up here is Boston College, and Boston College doesn't give any merit scholarship. So if you don't qualify for aid, you're going to pay 90,000 bucks a year. And I have an increasing number of parents who are now going, we're not doing that. Either we can't do that or we don't want to do that. We don't think it's worth it. So then I don't even put the Boston College on the students list, because I'll tell you, you go over there, it's a beautiful campus. They've got big time sports. It's a really strong academic school. It's very impressive. Well, I don't even want the student to take a look at it if it's out of the price range. So a lot of people do this backwards. They go, oh, well, we'll figure out how much it's going to cost, once she picks her schools. And that's really not not a good way to go about it these days. It could be a very expensive mistake. And so, but if they do qualify for aid, we help them with the FAFSA, which is the federal financial aid form. And sometimes some schools require another form, which is called the CSS profile, and we help them do those as well.
And what's the average that the family gets? Most families, you said, don't get anything. Do you see families that do? And what's the average that they do get?
Our families probably range on, strictly from a scholarship perspective, probably between $20,000 and $25,000 a year in scholarship money. And that all goes into their college list. So again, Hobart and William Smith, great school. They give a lot of scholarships to the right students. So we would populate the students list with those kinds of schools. And then sometimes we can help them write appeal letters that will help them get a little bit more as well. So I'd say the average is 20 to 25,000.
So is there a lot of hand holding that you're doing, a lot of guiding? And how many people are working in your office that you're helping?
Uh, there are 10 people on my staff, including me. And we have over 100 seniors each year, and then that ramps up. We've been growing a little bit, so that number might get higher. Um, so yeah, it's about 100, a little bit more than that each year.
Wow, that's pretty good. And how do the students and families find you?
It's, I'd say 95% referrals from previous clients. And then some people find us online, but I'd say 95% are personal referrals, which is great. That's the way, the idea is you don't have to do a great deal of marketing if you do a really good job for people and they appreciate it and they tell others.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're helping these students. What do you find is a big interest in students? Do they all look at just the big time schools that you see on TV, or do you guide them into, well, maybe those schools aren't possible for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I want every student to apply to some reach schools, but they have to be realistic reaches. As you know, Harvard and Yale and, even schools like BC, Boston College, Villanova have gotten really competitive. And part of that is due to this test optional environment that we're in because kids now don't have to submit test scores to some of those schools. And so it's expanded the applicant pool significantly. I just saw, I think it's NYU has well over 100,000 applicants, and they're
Wow.
going to accept about 7% or 10% of those students. So it's highly competitive. So yeah, people come in with those brand names in their head. Not, and when I say brand, I don't just mean Harvard, Yale, Princeton. I mean NYU, Villanova, Clemson, Wake Forest. And you just have to give them a reality check. Okay, if you really want to look at Wake Forest, we'll help you and we'll do all we can to help you get accepted, but I want you to have other options on the table. And here are some really good choices that, I always tell students, you have veto power over this list. So if you don't like a school after you visited, then we'll take it off, but we're going to find some more that you're going to be.
So do you have a system like the high schools have where it's like a Naviance type of system where they plug in certain things and it pulls out a whole bunch of schools?
Sort of. We have our own software which has been customized to outline the process, and we put the school list in there, and the student can take notes about the particular college that they visited. Um, so it's kind of our own thing. I end up doing research on my own. Our system has a research tool. I use that. I use a couple other things. But, honestly, I've been doing this so long now. It's going on 21 years that I can pretty much come up with a list on my own for where I think students will be successful and where they won't be. And so that's what I rely on to.
Now, do you focus just on the students in the New York area, or could you go anywhere in the country?
No, we have clients all over the place. We have clients in California and Texas, and I even have a client in Idaho this year. So again, when it's coming from referrals, oh, my cousin lives in Chicago and they told me to contact you. So yeah, we do all over I'd say the vast majority of our clients are within about an hour here of where I am in upstate.
Now, do you do it all online, or do you actually go visit these families?
If they're local, they come to our office. If not, no, I wish I could travel the country and visit people, but that wouldn't work. So we use Zoom for those folks. And honestly, even families here, kids are so busy as you know, they're playing sports, they're in activities, they're involved in the community. So sometimes, we just jump on a Zoom if it's 7:30 at night. I don't want them coming to my office and me having to go to my office. So So it's a mix of Zoom and our software and then in-person meetings.
And what's the website that people go to find you?
Collegeadvisorny.com.
All right, good. So we're coming to the end of our show, and usually I ask my guests what advice you want to give to the students and the parents that are watching the show. What advice you want to give them?
I'd say two things. First, for parents, understand your affordability early in the process. I kind of outlined that before, but that is critically important because, if you have two children and they both go to a sticker price school like Harvard or NYU, you're going to end up spending, and this is not an exaggeration, almost $800,000 for college. And that's just more than people bargain for. So understand whether you're going to qualify for aid, whether you're not, which schools provide scholarships, where your student's going to be an appealing candidate and where they're not going to be appealing. On the student side, I guess this goes for parents and students, go past the brand names. Another trend now that's happening is kids want to go south and go to Clemson and University of North Carolina and University of Florida and University of Tennessee. It has a lot to do with their sports programs and the success of those programs. Kids want to be in that fun, exciting environment. But even those schools that I just mentioned and many others have gotten really competitive because of that. So you have to be realistic, and so go past the brand name institutions and look a little bit deeper. What schools have the major that my student's interested in? And where do I think they can get accepted? What's going to be a good fit for them that might be just a slightly less well-known institution, but still a quality institution?
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. It was nice talking with you, and I appreciate it.
Yep. So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.